ஐந்து கரத்தனை ஆனை முகத்தனை இந்தின் இளம்பிறை போன்ற எயிற்றினை நந்தி மகந்தனை ஞானக் கொழுந்தினை புந்தியில் வைத்தடி போற்றுகின்றேனே. யோகேன சித்தஸ்ய பதேன வாசாமலம் ஷரீரஸ்ய ச வைத்யகேன யோபாகரோத்தம் பிரபரம் முனீனாம் பதஞ்சலிம் பிராஞ்சலிரானதோஸ்மி. ஆபாஹு புருஷாக்காரம் சங்கசக்ராசிதாரிணம் சஹசிரசிரசம் ஸ்வேதம் பிரணமாமி பதஞ்சலிம். ஸ்ரீமதே அனந்தாய நாகராஜாய நமோ நமः. ஸ்மதாச்சார்யேभ्यः சர்வேभ्यो நமோ நமः. அஜாமேகாம் லோஹிதசுக்லகிருஷ்ணாம் பஹ்வீம் பிரஜாம் ஜனயந்தி கும்சரூபாம் அஜோஹ்யேகோ ஜுஷமாணோனுஷேதேஜः ஆத்யேனாம் புக்தபோகாமஜோன்யः. ब्रह्मा मुरारिस्त्रिपुरान्तकश्च भानुशशि भूमिसुतो बुधश्च गुरुश्च शुक्रशनिराहुकेतवो कुर्वन्तु सर्वे मम सुप्रभातं. भृगुर्वसिष्ठक्रतुरङ्गिराश्च मनुपुलश्च पुलहश्च गौतमः रैभ्यो मरीचिश्चवनोऽथ दक्षो कुर्वन्तु सर्वे मम सुप्रभातं. सनत्कुमारश्च सनन्दनश्च सनातनोऽप्यासुरिसिंहलौ च सप्तस्वरा सप्तरसातलान् कुर्वन्तु सर्वे मम सुप्रभातं. सप्तार्णवा सप्तकुलाचलाश्च सप्तऋषयो द्विपवनानि सप्त भूरादिकूर्मो भुवनानि सप्त कुर्वन्तु सर्वे मम सुप्रभातं. पृथिवी सगन्धा सरसास्तदापस्पर्शश्च वायुर्ज्वलितञ्च तेजः नभस्य शब्दं महता सहैव कुर्वन्तु सर्वे मम सुप्रभातं. ब्रह्माणं शङ्करं विष्णुं यमं रामं धनुं बलिं सप्तैतान् संस्मरेन् नित्यं दुःस्वप्नस्तस्य नश्यति. पुण्यश्लोको नलो राजा पुण्यश्लोको युधिष्ठिरः पुण्यश्लोका च वैदेही पुण्यश्लोको जनार्दनः. कार्कोटकस्य नागस्य दमयन्त्या नलस्य च ऋतुपर्णस्य राजर्षे कीर्तनं कलिनाशनं. जानामि धर्मं न च मे प्रवृत्तिर्जानाम्यधर्मं न च मे निवृत्तिः. केनापि देवेन हृदि स्थितेन यथा नियुक्तोऽस्मि तथा करोमि. इत्थं प्रभाते परमं पवित्रं पठेत् स्मरेत् वा शृणुयात् च तत्त्वत्. दुःस्वप्ननाशस्तु इह सुप्रभातं भवेत् च नित्यं भगवत्प्रसादात् भवेत् च नित्यं भगवत्प्रसादात् भवेत् च नित्यं भगवत्प्रसादात्. ओम. Right. Any questions on what we did yesterday? If you don't have, yes.
My question is Drishta always a precondition for Anumana or not? Because I mean, I need to use my senses always in order to be able to make a logic kind of inference.
Yes, yeah,
so is it always like a precondition for
the information that you get through the senses? If it is not complete, then you got to use your Anumana, you use logic to understand the whole thing. So that is why there has to be some information available through the senses, which you will have to, and then the information that you have got could maybe stored in your mind as memory. That could also be helpful. Okay. So basically the information should have come to you through the senses to start with.
Okay, so I need first to use kind of my senses in order to, of course.
Pratyaksha, if it is complete information, that is why Pratyaksha, the information that you get through Pratyaksha should be complete. For that, you got to completely be focused. That's why he used the word Adhyavasaya. Okay. That is, your senses should be completely focused. And then if you get complete information using the complete focus, then that will be Pratyaksha.
Okay. Right. And also another question. Can we say then that Drishtam is like a more sensory or intuitive, intuitive way of like cognitive process, and Anumana more like a rational or logical cognitive process?
Based on some information you received through your senses.
And Aptavachanam then is also like a faith-based process of cognition.
Yeah, because
I have to trust, to believe, have faith in someone's.
Yes. Something you do not know, something for which you have absolutely no clue. You have not. You can't use your senses to get any clue, and then
you use faith. You have to believe. I mean.
It basically starts with faith. Okay. That then you don't believe everybody. You don't believe everybody. That's why they use the word apta vachana. That is somebody, apta vachana is that not merely you are having faith. It should be some person who knows the truth.
Okay, so how to discern this?
That's a different question.
Okay.
The question, the apta vachana, the definition of the apta vachana is this: what you call listening to listening to your source, which is authentic.
Okay.
Whether it is authentic or not, that's a different question.
Okay.
Supposing I think I know the truth, and I tell you, and somebody believes that, that is apta vachana.
Okay.
Right? If you start questioning whether I know about it or not, then that is not apta vachana.
Yeah, so I doubt it. Okay.
Right. So apta vachana, there are two things. One, the person should know, and then you must have faith in that.
Yeah.
If you have faith in somebody who does not know, that won't become apta. It won't help you.
Okay.
It won't be helpful.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Any other question? First, yes.
Comes to Apta in what Sāṁkhya Kārikā is referring to is specifically the Vedas when it comes to the scriptures.
Yes.
He's saying as the
Yes.
only trustworthy source. So
Yes.
this is really
Right.
those.
In these matters, the what you call the apta vachana are the vachanas of the various rishis refer to that, and in that also there are different rishis explained in different ways. The Upanishad rishis explain in a particular way. The Sāṁkhya yoga philosophers explain in a different way. So they are, if you listen to all these philosophies, you try to find out which appears to be right to you, and then start believing this.
One more thing, is it possible for you to explain the three kinds of Anumana? Purvavat, Samanya.
Purvavat, Seshavat, Samanyavat. Purvavat, I think Purvavat is something which you already experienced earlier, so similar circumstances arise, you come to that conclusion. So okay. Something you have seen earlier, and then subsequently, then you are able to come to the conclusion. That is Purvavat. Seshavat means you take a part of the whole, and then from that you assume that the rest of it will have the same characteristic. Then what is the third one? Samanyavat, I don't exactly. What did I say? Extended? Huh? Yeah, similarity. Yes. Yeah, similarity. Right. So these are the three. One in a group. Same member of a group. So, right. Purvavati, Seshavati, Samanyavati. These are the three. And they are linga lingi purvaka. There are symptoms. Through the symptoms, you try to infer what the whole truth is. So these are the ways by which we normally do that. Only thing is here he emphasizes that because these are things which cannot be known. Either you look for symptoms, look for clues, or to start with believe in those people who already spent time going through that. They come out with this philosophy, with this theory. So what should we do? In all these spiritual matters, the first source of information will be the apta vachana. You got to study them and then listen to what they have got to say. Don't pass any judgment to start with. Just go with those philosophers, especially with Yoga Sutras. Don't ask questions. Not in the sense, I have studied this way, some other philosopher. Just listen to what he has got to say. Go through the text completely. Once you have got to go through, then ask questions. So this doesn't tally with what X and Y says or somebody else says. Then that's the way to arrive at. Because every philosophy, you may find certain questions are not completely answered. Sāṁkhya answers a lot of questions. Yoga answers some of the questions that are not asked that are not answered in Sāṁkhya. And what yoga does is, because Sāṁkhya has already answered several of these questions, they don't take up those questions. So that is why in the olden days they had to study all the 6 philosophies, because they are interdependent, they are siblings. They don't. There is a saying, Anuttam Anyato Grahyam. If something is not mentioned in a particular philosophy, you got to find out answer from other comprehensive, appropriate philosophy. So when you study all the 6 philosophies, many of them have got a common approach. If you especially take Sāṁkhya, Yoga and Vedanta, with respect to the three gunas, they have the same approach. With respect to the nature of the self, they got the same approach, which is different from the other, philosophies that we come across, right? Okay, now can we go to the next shloka? What is the next shloka we have? How many shlokas we did yesterday? That's good. In the seventh shloka, he listed 8 reasons why we may miss an object that exists. We may miss an object that exists. We may conclude it does not exist. Suppose miss my glasses. I keep it somewhere. I search for 2 hours. I'm not able to find it, until my wife says, no, can't you see it? It's just in front of you, and whatever, See, the glasses are there, they are not gone anywhere. I missed that. So there are 8 reasons why we miss that. One of them is the 8 reasons have been given earlier. Okay, you see what I mean? So just because you are not able to find it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's what he tries to emphasize here. You find it, you have got to look for it carefully. So he says there is the Mula Prakriti. What is Mula Prakriti? Mula Prakriti is the source of the universe. Mula Prakriti is something which is Avyakta. Avyakta means non-manifest. Because it does not manifest, I am not able to find it. I gave the example of a dot in space, or a point in space. A point in space is, you can't exactly find it, but it exists. Likewise, Mula Prakriti exists, but I am not able to find it. So the only way I can find it, to start with, I can find it through through the people who have found it. Who are the people who found it? The Sāṁkhya philosophers. They have found it, or the yogis have found it, right? So that's the Aptavachana. That's the first information I get. Then what do? They also explain to you how you can find it. They not only tell you it exists, they also tell you how to find it. That's what we are going to go through in the next few shlokas. Right? So he says, the Mula Prakriti exists, but you are not able to find it because of one of the 8 reasons. Commonly, there are 8 reasons why you don't find an object. One of them is not applying your mind. That could be one more reason, because we apply our mind for so many other things. This question was never addressed. We never addressed this particular question. So in the 8th shloka he says, out of the 8 reasons why we don't find the Mula Prakriti, whereas the Sāṁkhyas and Yogis are able to find it, is because we never applied, we never thought about it, We never thought about on these lines. So he says, Saukshmyat tatu upalabdhihi. Because there are 8 reasons we gave yesterday. You remember 8 reasons? Saukshmya, because if it is subtle, if it is too subtle, if it is too far away from you, or if it is too close to your eyes, or if you don't apply your mind, there are 8 reasons that he gave in the previous shloka. Now, out of the 8 reasons, the reason why, even if I study the Sāṁkhya Kārikā, even I apply my mind, I am not able to find it. Why? Because Saukshmya, because it is very subtle. Saukshmyat tatu upalabdhihi. Because it is very, very subtle, tatu upalabdhihi. Tatu means what? Mula Prakritihi. Mula Prakriti, there are different terms that are used. Mula Prakriti is one term. Another term that they use, Pradhana. Pradhana means what? Pradhana means the principal thing. Pradhana, Mula Prakriti, these, and there are a few other terms that are used for the Mula Prakriti. Saukshmyat, tat here refers to the Mula Prakriti. Saukshmyat, tat, the Mula Prakriti. Anupalabdhihi. Upalabdhi means you are not able to get close to it. Labdha means to get. Upalabdha means you approach it and get it. Anupalabdhi, you are not able to approach it, you are not able to get close to it. Why is it you are not able to get close to it? He says because Saukshmyat, because it is too subtle. It is too subtle. It can't be seen by the senses. There are no clues, we have got to find out clues to find it out. Saukshmyat tatu upalabdhihi na abhavate. Not because it does not exist. Na abhavat. Abhava means non-existence. I told you there are 4 types of non-existence which is used by the Vedantins as one form of inference. What are the 4 types of abhava? Prakabhava, Pradvamsa Bhava, Anyonya Bhava, Atyanta Bhava. Pragabhava is something that is going to occur in the future, but it does not exist now. Similarly, Pradvamsa Bhava is something that existed earlier, it does not exist now. Anyonya Bhava is something which cannot exist when that, when a particular space is occupied by something else. Anyonya Bhava. And finally, Atyanta Bhava, something which never existed. Okay, now he wants to say that you are not able to see the Moola Prakriti or experience the Moola Prakriti, not because it does not exist, not because it is an abhava, but because it is too subtle. Because it is too subtle, you are not able to see that. Then how can you get it? Alright, then you got to get to Anumana. Karyataha tatu upalabdhihi. Karyataha. Karyataha means from the effects you can infer that. From the effects you can infer that. In fact, all science is based on this. All science is based on that, isn't it? You take from the sample that you take, you try to find out what the cause is. Similarly here, Karyataha tatu upalabdhi. Karyataha means its effects. Karyataha means the effects. The effects of Moola Prakriti is known. Even though Moola Prakriti cannot be achieved, you are able to see the effects of Moola Prakriti in its effect. What are its effects? What are the effects of Moola Prakriti? All the 23 tattvas that evolved out of Moola Prakriti, like your Mahatattva, then the Ahankara Tattva, then the 11 Indriyas, then the 5 Tanmatras, the 5 Bhutas, and then all the various objects that are created out of the 5 Bhutas. Hundreds and hundreds of objects are created out of the 5 Bhutas. So all of them put together, all of them have, you will be able to find the nature of the Moola Prakriti in all the products. So that is the only way by which you will be able to understand there is a Moola Prakriti. One good way to understand is, I think I explained to you, the way the scientists are able to say that the entire universe came from from a singularity. How did they do that? They started seeing that the space is expanding, on a continuous basis, space is expanding. So they are able to go back and then say the whole thing should have started from a basic minimum, right? So this is only an inference, isn't it? There is an inference. You see an effect. What is the effect? It keeps on expanding. So what do you confer? What do you conclude? It should have started from something which started expanding many. So the amount of space some 10 years back was less than the amount of space that will be 10 years from now. So you work back and then you will be able to come to the conclusion the whole thing started from there. This is one way. Similarly, here, these people, the Sāṁkhya people, do not merely say that the whole thing started from Moola Prakriti. There are a number of other things that they say about the Moola Prakriti, which is different from the singularity of the singularity of the science. Do you make sense? See, this gives the view is that everything that you find in the universe, you must be able to find the information in the Moola Prakriti itself, right. So Saukshmyat tatu upalabdhihi, because the Moola Prakriti is very, very subtle, it is not seen, it is not realized, na abhavat, not due to non-existence. Karyataha tatu upalabdhihi. Okay, from the effects you will be able to know about it. Okay, what are the effects? Mahadadi tachkaryam, mahat, etc. Mahatattva, this is the the universal intelligence I told you, and then the ahankara, etc. Mahadadi tachakaryam. That's karya, its effects. Karya means effect here. The effect of the Moola Prakriti are the mahat and others, and Prakriti Virupamcha. And then what about the products? Are they exactly same as the Moola Prakriti? No. There are similarities, but also differences. You see what I mean? There are similarities with the Moola Prakriti, and there are differences from the Moola Prakriti. Otherwise, everything will look the same. Okay? The same parents, the children are not exactly alike. There are similarities, There are similarities born to the parent. The children born to the parents have similarities. They look different from, let us say, the children of some other parents. There are similarities between them. But there are also differences. So this is something which, so that the products will have similarity and differences should be explained. Normally the science doesn't explain it. See, if you start to know what you call the singularity, and then everything came up, and then what about the various differences that you find in the universe? So these people try to explain that the source is one, but the effects has certain similarities but also differences, right? Saukshmyat tat upalabdhihi na abhavat karyatah tat upalabdhihi mahadaditaccha karyam prakritihi virupam sarupam cha. Prakriti virupam sarupam cha. The products are what is created has got similarities with the source. At the same time, there are differences among them. Differences among the various products. Is it clear? I hope so. Okay, let us read the shloka. Saukshmyat tatu anupalabdhihi na abhavat karyatastat upalabdhihi mahadaditaccha karyam prakriti virupam sarupam cha. Saukshmyat tat anupalabdhihi na abhavat karyatah tat upalabdhihi mahadaditaccha karyam prakriti virupam sarupam cha. Saukshmyat tatupalabdirna bhavat karyatas tatupalabdhihi mahadaditaccha karyam prakriti virupam sarupam cha. Next shloka now tries to answer several of the other views prevailing at that particular time. He says there is a source for the universe which he calls as Moola Prakriti, and then it is not known, not because it does not exist. It exists. It is not known because it is subtle. Because it is so subtle, we are not able to. It is beyond the senses. So the only way by which I will be able to understand is to start with the Aptavachana. Of course, it's obvious. The way is to infer. How do you infer? By the effects. Look at the effects, and from the effects you try to understand the source. That is what science does. Science looks at the effects and then tries to find out the cause, isn't it? So here also that's what he says. Look at, and then what are the effects of that? He is very clear about it. The effects of that Mahadadi, the Mahat, Ahankara, and all of them. And all of them look alike and yet different. What is common in them, what is different in them, that's what you got to see. What is common in all the objects created, which can be traced to the Moola Prakriti, what are the differences? So these two things we got to see now. Why are they alike and why are they different? There is one source, but it produces objects which are similar to the source but also different among themselves. How is it possible? That's the question. Then, now before going into that, there are a number of other philosophies like, why there is no source. The whole thing has come out by itself. There is no source. Are you familiar with the Shunyavada? Is there anybody who is very seriously practicing Buddhism here? Please don't, don't get offended. This is these philosophers fight among themselves, so we don't want to take part in their fight. But let us say why he says this. So mainly two views are there. One view is there is no need. You don't have to have a source for all these things. After all, according to some views, everything that we experience are only thoughts, isn't it? As I think we have, even yogis also refer to that. Even though we see a number of objects, they have to be reduced to chittavarti. What is a chittavrti? Chittavrti is what you call a thought process. Okay, the thought process can be what you call triggered by objects. That thought process can be triggered by our memory. But ultimately everything will have to take place in the chitta akasha only. They are only objects of the in the mind only. Even though I may see all the objects here, even me included, it is a part of the what do you call? I experience myself. I am able to experience all the objects like I experience all the objects. I am also experiencing myself. I am able to experience that I am sitting here and talking. So there is a composite chittavrti, composite thought in me. So if these thoughts are completely what you call go away, if I by some process I am able to completely eliminate all the thought, this is what some kind of meditation they do. You shoot all the thoughts become weak, and ultimately you have no thoughts. When there are no thoughts, you even forget about the outside world, you even forget about yourself. What does it remain? Nothing, isn't it? Nothing remains. Does it happen? That's what is supposed to happen in a particular type of meditation. In a particular type of meditation, in the yogic meditation, what is it you try to do? You try to reduce the multitude of chittavrittis to one chittavrti, isn't it? At the time, supposing in 15 minutes of time, you take a video of the various thoughts that go on in your mind. Moment after moment, there may be a different thought, depending upon how agitated or how calm you are. There are different thoughts that may be going those 15 minutes or so. In the process of meditation, what do? In the state of dharana, you try to bring your mind to one thought, isn't it? You take a mantra or you take a chakra, meditation, whatever. You try to bring your mind to the same object. And then over a period of time, you bring the mind to the same object again and again for a period of time. Ultimately, your mind is going to stay in the same object for the entire 15 minutes. That is, then it becomes, you call it as dhyana. And if you forget yourself, and if the mind is going to think of the same object for the entire 15 minutes, you are said to be in a state of what? Samadhi. Right? So, you reduce the vrittis, instead of multiple vrittis, called chitta vikshepa, during the normal mental state, you reduce it to one. So here ultimately, even that particular thought is there is no one thought. Ultimately, when you are able to realize the nature of the self, that mind has known everything that has to know, so it doesn't entertain any other thought, and you get the chitta vritti nirodha. At that time there are no thoughts, the way we understand thoughts. So similarly here, the way they go, so particularly in yoga, they say, if your mind is going, am I making sense? If your mind is going after too many thoughts, first try to reduce the number of thoughts. So for that to take place, you got to first of all reduce your rajas and tamas in your system. You do your asana practice, you do your pranayama practice. Asana practice will reduce your tamo guna, rajo guna. Then your pranayama reduces your tamas. Once the rajas and tamas are reduced, the mind is more and more in a sattvic state. Sattvic state of the mind is the right kind of mind which can lead you to ekagrata, one pointedness, one thought, one vritti instead of multiple vrittis. Right? That is the dharana stage. You cultivate it. So this is the process Patanjali says in the yogic process by which you will be able to reduce the chitta vrittis and reach chitta vritti nirodha. In other systems, what they do is already you look at the chitta vrittis, don't give any encouragement to the thoughts. You just look at those thoughts, you stay away from that, and then over a period of time, these thoughts will lose their, unless if you don't support their thought, over a period of time they become weak, and the chittavarti nirodha will take place. Of course, they don't use the word chittavarti nirodha. Ultimately, there is a shunya, completely blank is in mind. There is nothing else. After all, the outside world, everything is known only as a thought. If the thoughts are completely gone, there is nothing else that exists. The question of whether there is a world outside doesn't arise at all, because the thoughts are completely So either way, both the yogis and the yogis try to tell you, but the truth about yourself, then there will be no interest for you. The mind will lose interest in having any chitta vritti. It will come to a stop. Anyway, these are the two approaches. Why did I say this? So they say that there is no cause. The thoughts can be completely shot down. Once the thoughts are shot down, there is nothing else that exists. So the entire creation is only thoughts. The entire creations are only thoughts. And then the thoughts can be completely eradicated. Once the thoughts are eradicated, nothing exists. So The universe that you are talking about is our only thoughts, and the thoughts can have got no source. So he says, asat. Okay, there is nothing that exists. Nothing that exists. So he says, no, that argument he disagrees with. He said, asat akaranat. Isn't it? Asat akaranat. Asat means what? Non-existence. Sat means existence. Sat means existence. Anything that exists is called Sat. Asat is something that does not. Asat akaranat. If there is nothing, even those thoughts cannot be produced. See, to start with, if you say that everything comes from nothing, the thoughts also would not have arisen at all. Asat akaranat. You don't see anywhere, anything that does not exist producing anything else. Asat akaranat. It is incapable of doing anything. He is trying to argue that you got to accept that there is a source for the creation of the universe. Asat akaranat. And then upadana grahanat. In life we see there is also always a material cause. Upadana karana. Do you know what is upadana? Upadana means a material cause. In fact, they use two causes, upadana karana and then nimitta karana. Nimitta karana. In the Vedanta, they talk about upadana karana. There has to be an efficient cause, there has to be a material cause, right? Supposing the example that they give you is, if you see a pot, the pot cannot come by itself. The part cannot come by itself. It has to be created by an intelligent being. Intelligent cause must be there. So that intelligent cause is which is the intelligent cause? The potter is the intelligent person who shapes the. But then the potter cannot do it without a material. So two causes are there. Material cause will be the clay, and then the efficient cause or nimitta karana will be the potter. Potter and the clay, between them create the pot. Okay. So he says, upadana grahanate. So everywhere you are able to find material cause for everything that you see. There is a material cause for that. So according to the scheme of things of the Sāṁkhyas, what is the upadana karana for all the objects that we are here? All the objects that we see, the upadana material cause for all of them is what? All the five bhutas. The five bhutas combine in so many different ways and produce all these objects. See, all of us have got that is what the Yoga Sutras also. Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Sheelam Bhuta Indriya Atmakam. Okay, I am made up of all the five bhutas. Everything in the universe is made of five bhutas. Different combination of that, Some have more matter, some have more space, especially in the head. Asat akarnat. Upadana grahanat. Upadana grahanat. Upadana grahanat means what? Because there is always you are able to trace all the objects to a source, to a material source. Upadana grahanat. And then if you accept shunya or abhava, nothing, as the cause for whatever thoughts that you have, then anything can happen. Why is it the universe is like this? It could have been anywhere else. See, instead of human beings, ruling, it could be horses, like in your Gulliver's Travels. See, anything else could be done. Anything else can be imagined to happen. So that doesn't happen. There is a particular way this universe is going on. Okay. So there has to be a cause. We got the question is to find out the cause, not to say that there is no cause or there is no need to find the cause. Right? So that is his argument. Asata karanat. Non-existence cannot produce anything. Upadana grahanat. In all our activities in the universe, you are always able to find a material cause for all these things. Grahanat. Sarva sambhava abhavati. If you assume that non-existence can create anything, anything can be created. That is not the way. There is an order. Anything does not happen. Things happen in a particular way. Right? Shaktasya shakya karanat. Shakta means what? Only a thing which has got the capacity to do something can do that. Shaktasya shakya karanat. So, to produce something, there has to be a cause which has got the capacity to produce something. Shaktasya shakya karanat. Karana bhavacha satkaryam. And ultimately, he says that the entire universe merges into Mula Prakriti, and because of that, we have to say, all right, there are 2 points that he is trying to explain. One, the source of the universe, there is a cause for the source of the universe. It cannot be, it cannot be what? Asat. Asat means non-existence cannot be the cause. That he is trying to explain. And ultimately he says that because ultimately everything merges into something, it can't merge into nothing, isn't it? See, at the time of dissolution, that's what the scientists also say. At the time of dissolution, everything will have to merge. They can't merge into nothing. They have to merge into something, isn't it? Am I making sense? Is he making sense? I hope so. Right? So it's a repudiation of a very, very popular theory at that particular time. At that particular time, this was right. Karana bhavacha. And then he also says satkarya. The whole universe is not is not an illusion. This whole universe is not an illusion. Satkarya. What is created is sat. Sat means real. Satkarya means real. So there are different views about the creation. There are 2 important views. What are the 2 important views? Satkaryavada, and the other one is the Mayavada or Vivartavada. The whole idea is the entire universe is real according to these people. According to some, like your Buddhists and also Advaitins, what is the difference between Advaitins and Buddhists? I don't know. The main difference at this time, the main difference between these 2, so far as the Buddhists are concerned, they say that the universe is unreal. This is just an illusion. The Advaitins also say that it is an illusion. But what is the difference between them? The Buddhists say there is no source. Okay, there is no source. There is just an illusion. Whereas the Advaitins say this whole thing is an illusion, but that illusion also has to come from somewhere. Even an illusion cannot come by itself. It has to have a source. So the difference between Advaitins and Sāṁkhyas and Yogis and other Vedanta philosophies is that they all agree that there is a source for this. They all agree there is. They dismiss the idea that the whole thing came out from nothing. They dismiss that particular idea. But the difference between them is what is the source of this. So far as the Sāṁkhyas and Yogis are concerned, the source is Mula Prakriti. Because the effect of everything that you see can be traced to a Mula Prakriti, and then they try to explain. Whereas the Vedantins, they try to say that the source of everything is the Brahman, which does not undergo any change. Whereas in this case, the Mula Prakriti undergoes a lot of change. Whereas in that case, the Brahman is pure consciousness, whereas the Mula Prakriti is not consciousness. Of course, later on they try to combine these 2, and then if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, they try to come out with a philosophy which is a compromise between these 2 views. We'll come to that a little later. No. Shunyavada refers to that the source is Shunya, but the effect, see, both of them are put together. Shunyavada and Mayavada, if you put them together, we find that the source, there is no source, but if there is no source, what you see is only an illusion. Okay, but the Vedantins, they say, no, even for an illusion there has to be a source. Illusion just can't come from, it has to have a source. That source is Brahman according to them.
Which came first, Buddhism or the Vedas? Which ideas came first?
I don't know. There are different scholars, they debate about it, But the ideas of, it all depends upon, but the Buddhist ideas have been there for a very, very long time. In fact, some of the statements of Upanishads are taken by Buddhists to say that, that is the teaching. In fact, there is a Taittiriya Upanishad and the Chandogya Upanishad. In Chandogya Upanishad, Sadeva Somya idam agra asit. That's the statement. Sat eva, Somya, the father tells his son, Sat only. Sat is existence. Okay, Sat is existence, which can be related to Brahman. Brahman alone existed. Sadeva Somya idam agra agit. Sadeva Somya idam agra asit. Whereas there is another Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad says, Asadva idam agra asit, tato vai sadajayata. Initially that was Asat. Asat means non-existence, nothing exists. So of course they try to explain. So the Buddhists take that particular statement, asadva idamagra asit, saying that everything came from nothing. Of course the Vedantins try to explain, when they say asat, it means non-manifestation of sat. Asat means not non-existent but non-manifestation. That's the way they try to explain. Anyway, so it's these competing philosophies existed, probably more or less at the same time. That's my view. Okay. Asat akaranat, upadana grahanat, sarva sambhava abhavat, shaktasya shakya karanat, karana bhavacha satkaryam. Okay. So the main emphasis of this particular shloka is there is a source. That is to say that there is no there is no original cause for the creation, cannot be accepted. And moreover, then also he says what is created is real but not an illusion. So two arguments he tries to answer here. One argument is that the whole thing came not from asat, from sat. The whole thing came from a mula prakriti which exists. Okay, something which exists forever. It came from that. That is one. The other one is what is created is not an illusion, it is real, Satkaryavada. In fact, I think I had mentioned to you Satkaryavada, the yogis and the Vedantins subscribe to the view Satkaryavada, the universe that is created is real, right? So what we intuitively accept as real. Then the Vedantins and the Advaita Vedantins and what do the Vedantins say? Vedantins say, but the source of the universe is not Mula Prakriti, because Mula Prakriti itself came from the Brahman. Okay, so that is their view. They try to combine these two, right? So the source of everything is not Mula Prakriti, it is, in fact, in the Bhagavad Gita he explains it. I got two Prakritis, the upper Prakriti and the lower Prakriti. So it corresponds to the two streams of evolution of the. So they virtually hijack the Sāṁkhya philosophy and introduce with the. That's what the Bhagavad Gita does. Bhagavad Gita is able to bring a proper compromise between the absolute, the Upanishadic idea and the Sāṁkhya idea, and then put them together, right? It's right. So these are the two important views. That the whole thing came from Brahman, that is what. The whole thing came from nothing, that's the Buddhist view. The whole thing came from came from the Mula Prakriti according to the Sāṁkhyas and Yogis, right? Okay. This is called, so the Advaita Vedantins, they say, Vivartavada, what they say is, the universe that is created is not real, but then it came from Brahman, but that creation itself is an illusion. So the original Brahman does not undergo any change, but it appears to undergo change. That they call it as Vivartavada. What appears to be Brahman does not undergo any change, but it appears to, it appears to have undergone a change, and then this universe appears to be. So it is an illusion superimposed on the Brahman. That is the. Some of the Vedantins say, but the world that is created, universe created is real, but the whole thing came from Brahman, not from Mula Prakriti. So they call it as Parinamavada. Parinama is transformation. So these are the different views mentioned. But then everything you will find, enormous amount of spade work is done by Sāṁkhya. If you are able to follow Sāṁkhya, it becomes much easier for you to understand the differences that are prevailing at that particular time.
Can we say yoga subscribes to Parinamavada?
The word Parinamavada is used mostly in the Vedanta. So here we can say that the view of the yogi is Satkaryavada. Satkaryavada means the creation is real. Karya is the effect. The effect is real. So that is what he says. Use the word Satkaryam. Okay. Asat akar. Did we chant this? No. Asat akaranat. Upadanagrahanat. Sarva sambhava abhavat. Shakya karanaat.
शब्दस्य शक्यकरणात्
कारणभावाच्च सत्कार्यम्
कारणभावाच्च सत्कार्यम् कारणभावाच्च सत्कार्यम्
असदकरणात् उपादानग्रहणात् सर्वसम्भवाभावात् शब्दस्य शक्यकरणात् कारणभावाच्च सत्कार्यम्.
So when we talk of asata karanat, it says non-existence, right?
Asat means, asat means non-existence.
So is that similar to the Purusha?
No. Asat means that does not exist, or Purusha exists. Asat means there is shunya, nothing. In this, now you remember in one the earlier shloka, he says that what is produced, the universe that is created from the Moola Prakriti, there are similarities between the created universe and the Moola Prakriti, and also the differences between them. So what are the differences between the Moola Prakriti and the created, that is mentioned in the next shloka. What is the difference between the Vyakta and the Moola Prakriti? Vyakta means Vyakta, Avyakta. Vyakta means the manifest universe. What are the various aspects of the manifest universe? Mahat Tattva, the Ahankara Tattva, the the Pancha Tanmatras, the Pancha Bhutas, the 11 Indriyas. These are the products. So they are different. Each one is different. Okay, but all of them are supposed to come from one Moola Prakriti. So what is the difference between Moola Prakriti and the the products that are coming out of them? So this is explained in the next shloka. Hetumada nityam avyapi sakriyam anekam ashritam lingam savayavam paratantram vyaktam viparitam avyaktam. Okay, right. What are they? Vyaktam. Vyakta means the manifest, what is manifest. Hetumat. Hetumat means it has got a cause. Everything that you see has got a cause. Hetumat. The various objects that we see, they got a cause. What is that? What is the cause for all the objects? The five bhutas, isn't it? The five bhutas are the cause. Okay, you take the individual. What is the cause of the what is the cause of every individual human being? All the 23 tattvas are there. What are the 23 tattvas that are there? The five bhutas are there, the indriyas are there, the tanmatras are there, the 11 indriyas, the five bhutas, 16, plus the buddhi is there, the ahankara is there. So the entire products from you can find in each and every individual being. See, when you see an object, the tanmatras go into you. So tanmatras are always there. We are made of five bhutas. What are the five bhutas? The Prithvi Tattva, Ap Tattva is there, all the five tattvas is there. The 11 Indriyas are there in us, right? So, Hetumate, see, everything has got a cause. We are made of the various products of the Moola Prakriti, Hetumate, and then Anitya. So, this is the difference. Hetumate means all of us have got a cause. All the products that you see of the universe have got a cause, whereas Moola Prakriti does not have a Hetu. That's what you have seen. You say that, the Panchabhutas came from the Tanmatras came from Ahankara from Buddhi Tattva, Mahat Tattva from Moola Prakriti. Where did Moola Prakriti come from? We say that is the end of the story. There is no regression. Beyond that, there is nothing else. So, all the products have got a cause, whereas the Moola Prakriti has got not a Hetu. Hetu means it is not produced by somebody else. That is one difference between the 23 products of the Prakriti and the Moola Prakriti itself. Then the second difference is Anitya. Anitya means what? Anitya means what? Anitya, impermanent. All the bhutas keep on changing. Particular clay becomes a part becomes a particular broken part becomes dirt, mixes. Like that they keep on changing, right? Hetumat, Anitya, and then Avyapi. Avyapi means they don't permeate. Each object takes a small amount of space. The huge space, each object is there, scattered all over. Avyapi. Sakriyam. Sakriya means all of them act. Moola Prakriti does not act. Moola Prakriti, at the time there is no creation, does not act. Akriyam. Aneka. Aneka means many. The products are many. Buddhi Tattva, Mahat Tattva, Ahankara Tattva, like that there are so many products out of that. whereas the Mula Prakriti is only one, Aneka. Then Ashrita. Ashrita means all of them depend upon the Mula Prakriti, whereas Mula Prakriti does not depend upon anything else. Ashritam. Okay. Lingam. Lingam means Layam Gachyati iti Lingam. At the time of dissolution, all of them go back. Okay. The Panchabhutas merge with the Tanmatras. The Pancha Tanmatras merge with the Ahankara. The 11 Indriyas merge with the Ahankara. Ahankara merges with the Mahatattva, and Mahatattva ultimately merges with the Mula Prakriti. That is the process of dissolution. Very similar idea that you have in science also. Lingam, Sāvayavam, there are many parts in that. See, as I told you, you take just a human being, there are so many parts. Sāvayavam. Paratantram. Paratantra means they depend upon something else. All of us depend upon the Paratantra, on the Mula Prakriti. Why? Because Mula Prakriti has got all the three gunas that permeate in me. Paratantra. Cha. And then Avyaktam Viparitam. Viparitam. Avyakta is what? The Mula Prakriti is Vipariti, is different from that. So we will go through that. Hetumati, all the Vyakta or the products of Mula Prakriti, the entire chain, Hetumati, they got a cause, right? Whereas Mula Prakriti doesn't have a cause. That is one difference. The second difference, Anitya. All these things are Anitya. Ultimately, at the time of dissolution, they all disappear. Whereas the Mula Prakriti does not disappear. It exists forever. Anitya, and that is Nitya. Then Avyapi. Mula Prakriti's effects can be seen everywhere. The three gunas can be seen in every object. That is the common thing between the Mula Prakriti and the rest of the universe. Avyapi, whereas Mula Prakriti permeates the whole universe. Sakriyam, there are activities taking place in this, whereas Mula Prakriti does not act. Ashrita, Mula Prakriti does not depend upon anything else, is independent, whereas all the other objects are dependent. Linga, Linga means they merge into the previous cause. They merge back into the previous cause. Whereas Mula Prakriti has got no cause to merge. Sāvayavam, they got many parts, whereas Mula Prakriti has got no parts. And Paratantra means they are controlled by something else. All of them are controlled by the three gunas, whereas Mula Prakriti is not, is the resource. Avyaktam Viparitam. So this shloka explains the differences between what is produced by Mula Prakriti and Mula Prakriti itself. See, because earlier he said that it is both different and similar. The products are both similar and different. What are the differences that he tries to explain in this particular shloka? Okay. Hetum.
Asritam and Paratantra.
Ashrita means, Ashrita means it's dependent upon. Paratantra means dependent upon. Ashrita means supported by. You see, everything is supported by the three gunas. Hetumat Anityam Avyapi Sakriyam Anekam Ashritam Lingam Sāvayavam Paratantram Vyaktam Viparitam Avyaktam Hetumad Anityam Avyapi Sakriyam Anekam Ashritam Lingam Sāvayavam Paratantram Vyaktam Viparitam Avyaktam. So we'll get to the next one. Now in the next shloka, what does he say? What does he do? He tries to tell the similarities, what are the common features between the Mula Prakriti and the various products. Right? There are similarities, anything that is produced from some original, there are similarities and also differences. Differences have been explained now. Now we are going to explain the similarities. What are the similarities? त्रिगुणम अविवेकी विषयः सामान्यमचेतनं प्रसवधर्मी व्यक्तं तथा प्रधानं तद्विपरीतं सता च पुमान्. In this in this particular shloka, he tries to explain what the similarities between the Mula Prakriti and the products thereof and the Purusha. Now he is going to read the similarity between all of them, and then he says these similarities, whatever you find common between the Mula Prakriti, are absent in the Purusha. Right? Okay. Vyaktam. Vyakta means what? Say something. What is Vyakta? What is manifest? Vyakta, the manifest universe. How many tattvas are there in the Vyakta? Vyakta is how many? 23. 23 tattvas are there, Vyakta. And then the Avyakta is the Mula Prakriti, 24. Right. Vyaktam tatha, Vyakta means the manifest, tatha likewise, pradhana. Pradhana is another term that he uses for Mula Prakriti. Okay. I asked my teacher once, why do they use different words? They would, for instance, Jnaha, Purushaha, Atma, Pratyagatma. There are so many terms that use. He said, unfortunately, Sanskrit there is no Shabda Daridriya. Shabda Daridriya means there are no paucity of words. So here Pradhana means what is the principal one? What is the principal one? That is the Mula Prakriti. See? Pradhana. It makes it a little more complicated, that's all. Vyaktam tatha pradhanam, and then Trigunam Pradhana is Mula Prakriti, has got what? The three gunas. It is made up of 3 gunas. What about the Vyakta? They also have got the 3 gunas. See, that is why this is according to, you are able to explain the differences and similarities. See, if the original and the the products have to be similar and similar and also be different, then there has to be the original principle itself should be capable of producing similar at the same time different products. It should be inherent in the original one. If it is a homogeneous product, a homogeneous thing to start with, it cannot produce these differences. So he tries to tell us that even the Mula Prakriti, contains differences within itself. These are the 3 gunas. Right. Vyaktam tatha pradhanam. Vyakta the manifest. Tatha in the same way, pradhana the Mula Prakriti. They got something in common. What is it that is in common? The 3 gunas. Trigunam. Then aviveki. Aviveki means non-discriminating. In that particular case, there are no consciousness. That is, of course, he's going to say that again. Then vishayaha. This is another thing. Vishaya means object. Okay, that means they are not the subject. So in this world, the world is divided into what? Subject and object, isn't it? I am the subject all my life. Everything else is an object. So the whole universe is an object. For whom? For the subject. The Prakriti is not the subject. So that is what aviveki vishayaha. They are all objects. Mula Prakriti and Mula Prakriti in the form of 3 gunas and the various objects that the Mula Prakriti has produced, they are all objects for something else. Okay, vishayaha. Samanyam. Yes?
Then you say, I am the subject, that means I have all the objects also.
Yes, we'll come to that. Then that is why we got to define what the I is. Okay. We are not gone into, this we can understand. We can understand the way we go about life is subject-object relationship. The next question is, define what the subject is. We'll have to come to that. But right at this particular moment, we can see that there is an entity which is a subject and there is something else which is the object. So everything that is an object is, according to Sāṁkhya Kārikā, is Prakriti. Right. So later on he is going to explain. He is going to explain this thing. The subtle body, the Mata Pitraja Sharira, the Bhuta Sharira, everything is going to explain in the next 2 days, 3 days. Vishayaha, object. Samanya is general. The moola, the what you call the prakriti is common for all the subjects. You are a subject, I am a subject. It is common for all of us. Samanya, samanyam for all of us. Samanyam. And then achetana. Achetana means there is no consciousness in this. It is not aware of anything. The what you call both the moola prakriti and the various products coming out of that, they have no consciousness. This is another important message from these three philosophies: Sāṁkhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. Sāṁkhya and Yoga and Vedanta, they say that the what you call the prakriti and its gunas, they have got no consciousness. They may be very intelligent, but they have no consciousness. The computer I have is more intelligent than me. It can do a lot of things, but it has got no consciousness. So this is the distinction. Intelligence is different from consciousness according to these people. Consciousness is being aware of whatever is going on without partaking in what goes on in that. Intelligence is something which manipulates, right? Vyaktam tadha pradhanam trigunam aviveki vishayaha samanyam. It is general to all the purushas, general to all the beings. Achetana, this what you call prakriti is achetana, has got no consciousness, and prasavadharmi, it is capable of what you call evolving. Prasavadharmi is capable of evolving. What does it mean? From moola prakriti to what you call and the whole sarga, the whole prasavadharmi. Is it clear? Is it complete, or did you leave anything else? Yes, prasavadharmi. Tad viparitaha tathacha pumane. Tad viparitaha, entirely different from the moola prakriti, and now he explained the common features of the moola prakriti and that in this particular 3/4 of the shloka, and then he says, and finally he says, tad viparitaha tathacha pumane. Completely different from all the prakriti and its product is the puman. Is another word he used. Purusha, puman, atma, jnaha. See, puman is another word for purusha. Is it clear now? In the previous shloka he explained the difference between moola prakriti and the what you call products thereof. In this particular shloka he talks about the similarity between the moola prakriti, and then says this is the difference between what is common between moola prakriti and what you call and the vyakta. Okay, he is completely different from the nature of the purusha. Tad viparitaha puman, right? Trigunam aviveki Vishayah Samanyam Acetanam Prasavadharmi Vyaktam tatha Pradhanam Tadviparitaha Tathacha puman. Trigunam aviveki vishayah samanyam acetanam prasavadharmi vyaktam tadha pradhanam tadviparis tatacha puman. Any questions at this point? I think it's very, very nicely he develops the theme, right? So we'll go to the next one, I think.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do you define consciousness?
Okay.
Intelligence has no consciousness. But
Consciousness is just awareness. So at this particular moment, I'm aware of what goes on in my mind. So awareness is awareness of the chittavrittis, whatever goes on in my mind. What goes on in my mind is the only thing that is presented to the, I know whatever goes on in my mind. What goes on in my mind is whatever is presented by the senses to the mind, whatever process that goes on in my mind, everything. Constantly I am aware of that. So in fact this is explained in the Bhagavad Gita also. What it says is, between the time you are born and at this particular moment, we have gone through different stages in life, different thought processes. And then we have been aware of all these right through, There is one awareness which does not undergo any change, but it is aware of everything that goes on in the mind. Yesterday, I may be feeling what you call out of sorts. That was experienced I experienced that. Previous day I was extremely happy. Okay, I am experiencing that. When I was a child, the different kind of chitta vrittis were there. The same Purusha experienced that. Okay, so they try to isolate that, and then they say there is an awareness in us which is different from whatever goes on in the mind as a chitta vritti, as a thought. Difference between thought and the awareness. So that awareness is called it as, and then it has got none of the three gunas. It's neither sattvic nor rajasic or tamasic. Does not undergo any change. Whereas all the all the vishayas keep on changing. That awareness does not undergo anything. This can be easily. So in the Bhagavad Gita he says the same consciousness which experiences all the chitta vrittis during your youth, experiences different sets of chitta vrittis during your adulthood, different chitta vrittis in the old age, and then whatever happens in your next janma, the same consciousness is aware of that. The same awareness continues. It does not undergo any change. That is their observation. That is their observation. The observation of Sāṁkhyas, Yogas and Vedantins is that there is a constant, non-changing awareness that keeps on observing everything that goes on in the mind. I am happy at this particular moment. Yes, I am aware of that. Next moment I am very unhappy. I am aware of that. Right? This keeps on changing. What keeps on changing is being observed by something which does not undergo any change. This is again treated in Yoga Sutras also, right?
Is there an idea of Ishvara in Sankhya?
No, they don't say there is no Ishvara, but they don't want to. That it's not necessary to understand. This is not necessary to understand the evolution of the universe, and also, that particular. The Vedanta also does not really deal with that. Sankhya does not, Yoga does not deal with it. The Ishvara that they refer to in yoga is different from the personal God which you find in the religious works and the Puranas. There are difference between these two. So far as the source is concerned, the source can be Mula Prakriti according to the Sankhyas and also the Yogis. The source can be Brahman according to the Vedanta. The source can be nothing so far as Buddhists are concerned. The source can be God according to religion. Different views. And then in Vedanta they try to bring them together. In Vedanta they try to bring, the view of the Sankhyas, the view that God is there to create, and then there is this non-changing awareness that is responsible for the entire thing to happen. All of them are taken care of in the Vedanta philosophy. They are able to compromise or bring about a cohesion about all these different philosophies. So everything that is mentioned in Sankhya is taken, completely, transported into yoga. And then you find them in the Bhagavad Gita. These views are the three gunas. In fact, Krishna takes completely one chapter trying to explain the effects of the gunas, the various aspects of the three gunas. How does it manifest in our daily life, right? You don't look excited. Yes. Yes, they are in a state of balance. Right. That's the only difference. The difference between Mula Prakriti and rest is, in Mula Prakriti, the gunas are in a state of balance. The three gunas are in a state of balance. And in the various products, they change. They change. Then it becomes a, trillion types of permutation combinations are possible. That's how they explain it. If the Mula Prakriti is, in English word, monolithic, it's just one thing, it can't produce differences. It can only produce something which is similar to that. So they say the Mula Prakriti is made of the three strands of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, but is balanced state. So the difference is between the Mula Prakriti and the rest is, in Mula Prakriti the three gunas are in a state of balance, whereas in this in the Vyakta stage they are in a state of imbalance. So that is the way they explain this. So this is something we have got to understand. That is the main difference between the Sankhya Yoga philosophy, and the other way we try to understand. So the what you call the differences that you find in the in the creation are inherent in the original Moola Prakriti itself. But in the Moola Prakriti, they are not, the differences are what you call, each of the three gunas balance each other. And then right through the what you call creation, they work in unison. He is going to explain these things next, how they operate in the Vyakta stage. He is going to explain in the next. So is it clear about the nature of the Purusha? The same thing in the Mandukya Upanishad, they try to explain this, the same consciousness which experiences everything that goes on during your waking stage, the same consciousness is able to see what goes on during dream stage. When you have a dream, you are not seeing the dream. No, you are completely paralyzed. When you lie down and then you go to sleep, what happens? The awareness of our body goes away. In fact, according to science, there is a temporary paralysis completely. Your legs don't move, your arms move. Even in your dream, you may be running, chased by a tiger, or maybe chased by your wife. I don't know. Sorry, just not a good joke, I know. But you don't move at all. So the mind has completely identified with the dream self as the real self, completely forgetting you. You are not there in the picture at all. Next morning you may remember that, but at that particular time when you have a dream, the mind thinks that the dream self is the real self and not this person. And then who is experiencing that? I am not experiencing it because I am out of the picture. Whatever I consider to be myself during my dream, is not the person who has with which you identify during your waking stage. So what is it that is common between the waking stage and dream stage? That is that awareness. That awareness, they call it as the Purusha. You don't look good. Then when you go to sleep, what happens? There is nothing. There is nothing that is experienced. But there is an experience of nothingness. Right? And that who experiences that peaceful state? That is again the awareness. Huh?
Where does Purusha
Come from?
Source. No, source is Moola Prakriti.
No, Moola Prakriti is for the various objects. So far as there are two things. We have got to explain not only what the universe is, we also have to explain what is the subject, the nature of the subject. Because our experience of life is subject-object relationship. It is not merely a production of the entire universe, and then, but we experience that. Every one of us experience that. We have got to explain this. According to science, it is a product of what you call, sometime after the evolution took place, about billions of years later, first, the single cell bacterium came about, and then the Darwin theory took over, and then they explained that there are different species came about. But where did this consciousness come from? Does it come from matter? No, they say no, because so far as matter is concerned, it keeps on changing. Whereas the consciousness does not undergo any change. What does not undergo any change cannot come from something that keeps on changing. And it is very obvious. If you spend a little time and think about it, yes, there is some awareness which is aware of everything that goes on all through our life. And then if I can identify with that awareness as the real self, right, then you reached what they are trying to say. We can intuitively feel that. Only thing yoga tries to make you, all right, once you are convinced that, okay, there is something which is non-changing, whether I am happy, whether I am unhappy, whatever may be the state of the chittavrti, whatever may be the state of my mind. You see, this is one thing we got to understand. Even though we may be seeing lots of objects going about, everything ultimately has to take place in the brain as a chittavrti only, isn't it? Even though I see all the objects around, even though I feel that I am sitting here and talking, everything will have to be reduced to chittavrti. How do I see you? Just ask this question. How do I see an object? The object is there, I can see you, others can see you, everybody can see you. So what we see is only an image. So that image is created in my brain. So absolutely, that is why Patanjali reduced everything to chittavrti. Everything is reduced to chitta vritti. All our experiences are reduced to chitta vritti. If there is chitta vrittis keep on changing. One moment there is a pleasant vritti, next moment there is an unpleasant vritti, third moment there is a boring vritti like now, keeps on changing, vrittis keep on changing. But there is an awareness of every vritti that takes place. That awareness is not changing. If I am able to look at it this way, then I will be able to, all right, now I want my brain to see the difference between the non-changing awareness and the changing chitta vrittis. So that is Prakriti Purusha Viveka Jnanam. Sadajnata, Patanjali says, Satajnata Chitta Vrittayaha Tat Prabhoho Purushasya Aparanamitvat. Sadajnataha Chitta Vrittayaha. All the Chitta Vrittis are known all the time. Everything that goes on in my mind I am aware of that. You are not aware of that. I am aware of whatever goes on in my mind. You are aware of everything that goes on in my mind on a moment-to-moment basis. And which is the one that is aware of that? That awareness is your real self, according to them. That should be called as I, not the identification with this body. Yes. Memory and? No. See, you are, see, memory is one chitta vritti, isn't it? Supposing, now you are listening to me. What is the chitta vritti? You are just listening to me, and then whatever sound that I produce, you are able to hear that. Then the next moment what you do, no, this is what I heard earlier. So you try to bring something from your mind. So you don't listen to me. You have your own chitta vritti from your memory. So there is another chitta vritti. So that is why in the Yoga Sutras they have chitta vrittis are classified into five: pramana, viparye, vikalpa, nidra, smritayaha. Smriti is the memory. So sometimes you sit down and then even if somebody is talking, you don't listen to them. Your mind, you are engrossed in your own thoughts. The mind keeps on, weaving different thoughts, and then you are aware of that particular thoughts. That awareness is yourself.
Prasavadharmi is evolving.
Yes.
Victories don't evolve, they don't produce into something sustainable.
No, Prasavadharmi is to evolve, but then many of the objects that you see, after the Panchabhutas are there, they mix together and then become different types of and then the three gunas keep on changing also in all the objects. So Prasavadharmi will include all the changes that take place.
Mula Prakriti is balance of three gunas.
Yes.
What caused the imbalance?
No, they don't explain what causes that. Okay. The only thing they can say is the evolution can take place once there is a disturbance in the equilibrium. How does it take place? I think that's another question that should not bother us. They try to explain this evolution is possible during the time that there is no evolution, that everything is they are in the form of at the macrocosmic level, at the universal level, they are, and then the evolution starts at some time. We don't know when. Okay.
Answer is found in Vedanta also.
No.
Brahman.
No, that is again in the Puranas. Even in the Vedanta, when does it? But then according to them, this is perennial. This this illusion is perennial. It doesn't go away. So the only thing I can do is I can get out of that. I would like to get out of this. Let others take care of themselves. Let me get out of it. If at all anybody is interested, I will tell you how I got out of it. So if you take the Mula Prakriti, at the time of dissolution, they go back to the Mula Prakriti. The entire universe is, but we don't wait for that. The yogi, what does the yogi does? Okay, in my own lifetime, I will create this equilibrium in my own brain. My mind is either sattvic, rajasic or tamasic, depending upon how what my samskaras. Okay. Now, by the yoga practice, I will try to bring about the equilibrium between these three in my own mind. Once I bring it, there will no chitta vrittis. So, at the microcosmic level, I will be able to bring about the equilibrium within my own mind. Whereas the other the other people will have their own activities with the Prakriti. Again, Patanjali explains it in that, individually you will be able to achieve this. It does not affect other people. Other people keep on going, doing their own activities, depending upon their karma. So this concept, this idea of pure awareness is not really difficult. It is not really difficult. See, you got to start thinking, all right. Instead of taking me as a unit and then interacting with the outside world, you try to step back and then find out that whatever I am experiencing is a chitta. Everything takes place in my brain, and there is an awareness of everything that is taking place. If I am able to separate these two, then I will be able to understand the nature of the self. So long I keep this person as one individual unit, and then interacting with the outside world, that is, you consider this whole person as a subject, the outside world is the object. No, they say that it's not true. This person, having the three gunas, the three gunas, the 11 indriyas, all of them put together, is part of the Prakriti. When I say that outside world, you must be able to understand, explain what I mean by outside world. Normally, when I say outside world, the outside world is a Maya, then everybody is finding it difficult to follow that, because when you say the outside world is Maya, then you are also part of the outside world. You, or whatever you consider to be yourself, made up of this physical body, is also part of the outside world. So, not only the outside world is Maya, you are also, whatever you consider to be yourself is part of the Maya. If I am able to bring about that kind of understanding, and then if my mind is able to stay with that, then it will be easy for me to understand the nature of the self. I should be able to identify that part which I consider to be myself with Prakriti. The other part, which is awareness of that, is the real self. No? Right. See, it's a very, very nice way they explain it, okay? When Prakriti evolved, we will come to that, he is going to explain. Prakriti evolved, after the Ahankara, then it evolved into two streams, I told you. The subjective stream, it developed the Ahankara, Buddhi, then the Tanmat, then the 11 Indriyas, that became the template for the subjective side. Then the objective stream, the objects were created, Okay. Now, this is the subject, this is the object. Both of them belong to the same Prakriti. And then everything that is taking place between these two is being observed by the Purusha, and that should be identified as the real self. Without the Purusha, nothing will be experienced. Because both the individual stream and the Prakriti, they don't have consciousness. The individual self, made up of the 24 tattvas, is not capable of experiencing anything. You can produce experience, but to experience there has to be awareness. That awareness doesn't undergo any change. If you take a minute and then think about it, that awareness in us does not undergo any change at all. I'm aware of this. I'm aware of whatever was going on at this particular time. Next moment I'm aware of what is going on. If I'm able to separate that awareness from the chitta vrittis, then I'm in business. Priti, apriti, vishadatmakaha, prakasha pravritti niyama arthaha, anyonya abhibhava ashraya janana mithuna vrittayaha cha gunaha. Now he is now getting into one important teaching of the Sāṁkhyas is going into the Gunas. There are 3 Gunas, which are the constituents of the Mula Prakriti. Mula Prakriti is made up of the 3 Gunas, but then they can't separate them. It is like they give the example of a string made up of 3 strands. One strand is red, one strand is black, one strand is white, and then you make a thread out of that. See, once it is made into a thread, it goes to a cloth and all that. It is going to stay there like that. They all depend upon each other. They are not distinctly different. I'm sorry, they are not, they have to be together. They have to be together all the time. Even though we say there are 3 different characteristics, they work in unison. They are one unit made up of 3 characteristics. प्रीति अप्रीति विषादात्मकाः प्रकाश प्रवृत्ति नियमार्थाः अन्योन्य अभिभव आश्रय जनन मिथुन वृत्तयश्च गुणाः. Gunaha, start with the gunaha, the word gunaha. Guna means what? The three gunas. What are they? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Alright, the three gunas produce, how can you relate to those three gunas? Preeti means what? Desirable. Preeti means desirable. A lot of things that are desirable or uplifting or wholesome to us, will come under Preeti. Preeti is Sattva. Then Apriti, undesirable, is Rajas. And Vishada means, Visha means like poison, Vishada is, not again desirable. Atmakaha. There are three things that are found in there is an agreeable thing, there is a disagreeable thing, then there is the third one which is like a Vishada, right? Vishadatmakaha. Then what do they do in our lives? Prakasha, Pravritti, Niyamartaha. Prakasha means it gives clarity. Okay, sometimes my mind is very clear. I went to the Sāṁkhya Kārikā class, everything I was able to understand that. Why? Because my mind was in a sattvic state. I was able to understand that. Then after some time what happened? The toxins in the body, they go, and then what happens? The mind gets clouded and nothing becomes clear. Tamas takes over. Okay. Then I take a cup of coffee. Then Rajas takes over. I'm more energetic, I'm more agitated. My mind is not clear, I'm more agitated. I don't like the way he's explaining everything. Right? I feel like punching him. Okay. Prakasha Pravritti Niyamarthaha Anyonya. Okay. So these are the three things. Okay. What do? Prakasha, because they give clarity. Pravritti, they give activate. Niyama, restraint. Some people explain this. Prakasha will refer to order. Prakasha will refer to order. Pravritti will refer to energy. And Niyama refers to matter. What does matter do? Matter does not move by itself. Matter, this table, if you leave it here for 200 years, it will stay there. It won't move. Am I right? Want to try that? So, the tamas does not. So, what does not normally move? Matter does not move unless it is propelled by energy. So, Rajas keeps on moving, right? And then there is order in the whole universe. And that is what you call. So, the way the entire universe goes about is, there is energy, there is matter which is which does not move, there is energy which propels everything to move, and there is overall there is an order. There is a cosmic order in the whole thing. There is order in the way, there is order in the universe, there is order in the, there is order in the way the galaxies move, there is order in the way every cell behaves. See, absolutely the entire universe is there is chaos also, but basically everything comes back. The order is maintained. It is due to Sattva. Sattva maintains order. Rajas gives the energy. Without that, nothing can move. And matter is there to restrain. Matter is there completely to restrain. So, Prakasha Pravritti Niyamartaha. Then Anyonya. Then what? How do they work together? Anyonya means they are. Yeah. Anyonya means they work together. Okay. Supposing you got three wings, defense department. You got three wings. What are they? The Army, Navy, and the Air Force. All the three wings are there. During peacetime, what they do? The head of the Army, the head of the Navy, head of the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. They keep on fighting among themselves, who is great, how much money I should get for my, I want to have more aircraft, the other fellow will have, I want to have more infantry. They fight among themselves, they fight among, but when there is a war, what happens? They work in unison, supposed to at least. They work in unison, see, they work in unison, right? Prakasha, Niyamartaha, Anyonya, and then Abhibhava. See, Abhibhava means one dominates. Supposing the war that you have got is more based on infantry, then infantry takes over. Infantry, you got to send more ground forces. So both the Navy and Army, Navy and the Air Force will support them. Okay, who dominates the infantry? Everybody, the other two wings will have to help this particular wing, isn't it? Am I right? No. Right. So they work one dominates, the other two support, right? That's called abhibhava. Ashraya depends, I can't, as an infantry, I can't say, no, I don't want your help, I can do, no, I need the support of these two. Ashraya, I depend upon the other two wings, Ashraya. And then Janana. All the three put together produce the effect. Janana, they produce the effect. The effect is produced by the combination of the three gunas. Janana, Mithuna. Mithuna means there is no enmity between. Even though their characteristics are different, at the time they work as though they are one and the same. Is it clear? Okay, there appears to be a complete unity between all the three gunas. Mithuna, Vrittayaha cha. See? So that is how the the three gunas operate. How do the three gunas operate? The three gunas are different from one another. They got three different characteristics. One is energy, one is order, one is restraint. All the three are there. But then when they work in the universe, so sometimes when I am very sattvic, rajas and tamas don't interfere. I am very sattvic, at that particular moment I am able to think very well. I am going to write an article. My sattva is dominant. What does the rajas do? Rajas helps me to think. It gives you the necessary energy, right? Likewise, if the tamas dominates, what happens? The sattva cannot come and help. I go to sleep. When tamas dominates, the sattva and the rajas, there is not much energy at that particular time. Energy does not come in. If the energy comes during your sleep, what happens? You start getting a lot of nightmares, right? So all of them normally work in unison. That's how the universe goes on. Any questions at this? Okay, let us read the shloka. Priti, Apriti, Vishada, Atmakaha, Prakasha, Pravritti, Niyama, Arthaha, Anyonya, Abhibhava, Ashraya, Janana, Mithuna, Vrittayascha Gunaha. Pritya Priti Vishadatmakaha Prakasha Pravritti Niyamarthaha Anyonya Bhibhavakshraya Janana Mithuna Vrittayascha Gunaha. Okay, he deals with the gunas again. This is two important, two important information you get from the Sāṁkhya, which has been adopted by yoga and the other in Vedanta texts, is that one, the real self is pure consciousness or awareness which does not undergo any change. That is one. The second information is, the three gunas. The three gunas operate in unison even though they have differences among them. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Sattvam laghu prakashakam ishtam upashtam bhakam chalancharajaha guruvarnakame tattam evatamaha pradeepa vachartato vrittihi. Okay. Sattvam laghu prakashakam. Now, the previous shloka he talked about the three, the aspects of the three gunas in the general universe, the functions in the world. Now he says this can be experience within ourselves. We are whatever the body, mind complex, indriyas complex, it is part of Prakriti. It is part of Prakriti. So he says these three gunas can be experienced within ourselves. The three gunas can be experienced. How do we find them? Sattva, the sattva guna, how do you experience in in yourself? Sattvam laghu prakashakam. Sattvam laghu prakashakam. At the, what you call, at the physical level, sattva manifests as a lightness of the body. Okay, when you're sleeping, when you morning, as soon as you get up, you feel very light. Immediately get up from the body, from the bed, you feel very light. You may be a very heavy person, but you feel light. There are some thin people who find very heavy with it. The body is very tight, very tight. Body is tight, you feel heavy. That is due to not being sattvic, right? So when you are sattvic, then what happens? You feel light. Sattvam lagutva. Lagutva at the physical level. Sattva, if it is a dominating characteristic in you, you feel light. And then you don't feel light all the time. So whenever you are sattvic, you will feel light in your body. And then what else? At the mental level, sattvam laghu prakashaka. Prakashaka means clear. There is a clarity. There is light in my mind. As though some searchlight is there. Whatever goes on in my mind, I am able to understand it very easily. Sattvam laghu prakashakam. So if sattva dominates me, I find it lightness in the body and clarity of the mind. Sattvam laghu prakashakam. Is it clear? Are you feeling sattvic now? Good. Sattvam laghu prakashakam. And then he says ishtam. Ishtam, of course, ishtam means this is a desirable quality. Of the three qualities, sattva is the desirable quality. Because sattva is the quality that you will have to, you have to make sattva dominate you. Because only with a sattvic mind you will be able to understand all these things. The mind will become clear, understanding will be clear, all those things that they are talking about become clear, and then you will be able to achieve these things through yoga only with a sattvic mind. So what does yoga do? Yoga basically in the initial stages makes a rajasic person or a tamasic person into a sattvic person. By doing yama-niyamas, by following yama-niyamas, you try to reduce the ingestion of rajas and tamas from the outside world. All the yama-niyamas will help you to reduce the rajas tamas from the outside world. Because now he has mentioned that sattva is the right quality, isn't it? Sattva is the correct, because I want to remove the dukkha, that's how I started. If you want to remove the dukkha's, what did he say? You must understand the entire universe, you must be able to understand the nature of the self. That is not possible the way we go about. We get up in the morning, we are disturbed immediately. The outside world takes you. I am telling you, this is what happens. The moment you get up in the morning, the outside world disturbs you. What is that outside world made up of? Your own family. I am not saying that you should not have a family. The moment you get up, right, what should we make for breakfast? What should I do? Should we go to attend this party? Should we go to this? Should we attend the marriage next month? All that. By the time you get out of the house, the children will have to be fed. They don't get up at the right time, and all sorts of things. The outside world immediately takes possession of you. So you don't have to go outside. In your own house. Okay. So. And by the time you go back to bed, a number of other questions, you watch your TV, that disturbs your mind. You are worried about what happens to the the main character. You discuss about it. So there is a lot of disturbance all through the day, and then you go back. Next morning you get up. There is no way to think about it, and this thought process is rajasic and tamasic. This is not sattvic. Maybe in your office, if you write a letter or you prepare a report, occasionally there will be a sattvic mind. But by and large, most of the life is spent on a rajasic or a tamasic mode, or a combination of these, or dominance of these two. So that is why yoga specifically says that you got to find some time so that every day at least you try to bring sattva in your mind. So when you follow the yama-niyamas, you will start slowly reducing the rajasic and tamasic influence of the outside world. That's what the yama-niyamas do. Yama-niyamas do. Ahimsa. If I follow ahimsa, I may not be bothered about the outside world. They may not want to bother me. Ahimsa satya. I speak the truth. Because if I start telling, some people start with a lie to start with. That becomes a habit. Telling lies is a habit. Start with a lie. If I start with a lie, then I got to maintain it as though it is the truth. It puts a lot of strain on my small brain. It goes on and gone. So this is all tamasic thought process, tamasic chitta vrittis. Okay. So if you really take your time, so when you do this yamanima, when you follow yamanima, then you slowly start taking less and less of rajasic and tamasic influence from the outside world. Then what do? Then that is what very interesting about the Ashtanga Yoga, not the modern Ashtanga Yoga. I am talking about the Ashtanga Yoga of the Yoga Sutras. What does it do? After you do the Yamaniyamas, you are able to reduce the the Rajasic and Tamasic influence from the outside world. Then what do? You sit down and then do your asana practice. After Yamanima, the next one is asana. When you do asana practice, what does it do? It is supposed to reduce your Rajoguna. Asanena Rajohanti. That's very clear. Tato dvandva anabhigataha. So the Yoga Sutra says that, then the Hatha Yoga Pratipika says that. So regularly practice asana and try to get rid of or try to reduce the influence of Rajas in your system. If I don't do it, I keep on accumulating more and more Rajas. It's going to dominate. Over a period of time, I become a very Rajasic person or a very Tamasic person, but Sattva becomes subservient to these two. There is no clarity in thinking, just do things as things arise. Everything is dominated by the outside world. In my house, other people dominate me. We go to my office, my boss dominates me, my subordinates dominate me. When I travel in traffic, the other drivers dominate. Everybody, ultimately, you become so tamasic, the life becomes very, very difficult. So the yoga period, say 1 hour or so that you do your asana to reduce your rajas. Then they say that you don't leave it at that. When you practice asanas, what happens? Rajas comes down and there is more chitta space is there. That chitta space can be now taken over by either of the two gunas, either rajas, either sattva or tamas. Normally what happens? Tamas takes over. Because that space is taken over because you are tired. That is why when you do 3 hours or 4 hours of vigorous asana practice, that's again a modern yoga practice. You do 108 Surya Namaskaras, sweat, pant for breath, and after that what happens? You are so tired, tamas takes over, right? So in the olden days what they did was you do moderate amount of asana practice, and then immediately after that remove the the tamas that is produced in you. How do you do that? You do it by pranayama. Tata kriyate prakasha avaranam. Patanjali clearly says avarana is another term for tamas. Tataha kriyate, the pranayama reduces the tamas. So they have found out ways. So even though rajas, it is not as though we don't have any control over the operation of the gunas. We have control over the operation of the gunas. We can control the operation of the gunas, because unless my mind becomes sattvic, I will not be able to make any progress in what Sāṁkhya say or the yogis say. I have to do something so that I make my... So the first approach in yoga is to make yourself more and more sattvic. I'm not talking in terms of, like a sage or anything. See, this is a simple thing. It's a physiological process. Physiologically, if you are a rajasic, the mind is going to be agitated. You are going to feel dukkha. That's what he has been talking about. If you are tamasic, the mind is going to be dull. A dull mind cannot understand anything. Okay. If you want to understand the Yoga Sutra, if you want to study the Bhagavad Gita, if you want to study the Upanishad, the Sāṁkhya Kārikā and all that, you need a mind which is, for any activity for that matter, you need a sattvic mind. To study anything, you need a sattvic mind. If the mind is agitated, if the mind is dull, nothing can be done. So for any kind of purposeful activity or any thought process, you need a sattvic mind. And yoga on a regular way. So if you keep on practicing yoga regularly, doing your asana, doing your pranayama, and in addition to that, you sit down and meditate. Once you meditate, what happens? Meditation is a sattvic activity. Instead of allowing the mind to wander in a tamasic state, or if the mind to remain agitated in a rajasic state, if you prepare physiologically your body so that it becomes more and less and less rajasic and tamasic and becomes sattvic, now you try to strengthen the sattva by doing your meditation. In meditation, what do you do? In tamasic stage, the mind is completely blank. There is no thought going on. It is sleepy. In a Rajasic, it is agitated. Hundreds and hundreds of thoughts come one after the other. In the meditative stage, you have got only one Chittavarti to maintain. So you bring your mind to the same object again and again, and then that method of dharana, dhyana, and ultimately leading to samadhi, they have developed. So that over a period of time, you develop a new set of samskaras. Earlier, your mind was completely in a, what do you call, a Rajasic samskara. They were dominant. You get angry. Every day if you go through this traffic, if you go through this traffic, drive through this traffic, you become angry by the time you reach your office. Next day you become again angry with the traffic. So by the time you complete, in a matter of 1 year, you become an angry man or a woman for that matter. Right? You become very angry. So that becomes, that starts dominating. So that you translate in your day-to-day activity. Anyway, what I am trying to say is, yoga is a specific method by which our samskaras can be modified. Our samskaras could be modified. So what he says, he tells you what are the need to become more and more sattvic. He has already explained this, right? And then the means of achieving this in the Bhagavad Gita are take associate with sattvic people, use sattvic food, you do sattvic practice, study sattvic text. What is the point in studying a lot of junk and then disturbing your mind? See? Okay, is it clear? So making oneself more and more sattvic is possible by the appropriate methods. Right. Sattvam lagu prakashakam. Sattva at the physical level produces lightness. When you are sattvic, there is a springiness in your gait, when you walk around, sattva. And then mind is clear, right? Mind becomes clear. It becomes a habit. Habitually the mind is clear. Ishtam, there is a desirable quality, that is the important word, ishtam. This is what one should aspire. Everyone who is interested in this kind of approach in life requires to make the mind sattvic. Sattvam lagu prakashakam ishtam. Then what about rajas and tamas? Upashtambakam chalancha rajaha. Upashtambaka means activity. They give the example of you constantly engage with the outside world. They give the example of a bull. When it sees another bull, what does it do? When a bull sees another bull, they lock on. They immediately pick up a fight. Just like, I pick up a fight with my neighbor almost every day, When I see him, I get angry. When he sees me, he gets angry. Because both of us are Rajasic. It's just an example, not really happening. Upashtambakam chalancha rajaha. Chala means, inability to concentrate. The mind is fickle. It doesn't stay with any object. You can see that. When the mind is completely Rajasic, his mind is agitated. It can't think of anything for a long. The span becomes very small. The span, the concentration span, attention span becomes very, very small for a Rajasic person. Upashnambakam chalancha rajaha. Likewise, guruvaranakametat tamaha. When the system is highly tamasic, at the physical level, gurutva means heaviness. Guru means heavy. Guru means heavy. It doesn't mean Guru should be a heavy person. Guru is said to be heavy with knowledge. Gurutva. Gurutva. Varanakam. Varanaka means tamas. Tamas, another word for tamas is varana. Guru varanakametat tamaha. Varana means completely covered. Surrounded by, suppose you have got a wall around you, you don't see what happens outside. So your mind develops a wall, and that will call varana. Guru varanakametat tamaha. Tamas is what? Gurutva, physical heaviness, and the mental, blank. What do you call that? Blinkers, yes. Something like putting your blinkers in your brain. And then, but even though they are all three different, pradeepavat chartato vrittihi, like a pradeepa, like a lamp or a candle, pradeepavat chartato vrittihi. They work in unison. Each one has got a role to play. Only thing is, you must try to find out which should dominate you. That is, you need sattva, you need rajas, you need tamas, you need rest. Every day you have got to sleep for 6 to 7 hours. You need rest. Tamas should dominate during that particular time, supported by sattva, so that you get sattvic nidra, right? You need activity so that you will maintain good health. So that the rajas and tamas won't dominate, you will be able to use your time for meditation, thinking, contemplation, study. All these things require a sattvic mind. Okay. Pradipavat chartado vritihi. So all the three put together work in unison. Pradipavat. Pradipa means like a lamp. In a lamp there are three constituents, isn't it? So that's why he has taken this example. The three constituents are there. What are the three constituents? The oil or wax, the wick and the flame, so all the three. So the flame refers to the sattva aspect, the wick is the tamas, the oil is the energy providing, which is the rajoguna. All the but they have to work in unison. Only two cannot work together. If you have the wick and then you light it, immediately it will burn away. I have to use no. So wick is only guides the oil to go, and then the energy is used to create the flame. So like a lamp requires all the three constituents to function properly, the entire universe requires all the three constituents to work. So depending upon the dominance of one guna when compared to the other guna, right, there are different characteristics involved. Different people are there. Some are sattvic, some are rajasic, some are tamasic, some are rajasic sometimes, some are tamasic sometimes, some are sattvic sometimes. Some have got an undercurrent of sattva, some have an undercurrent of rajas, some have an undercurrent of tamas, depending upon the samskaras you develop. So this particular sutra says, even though the entire universe is made up of the three gunas, it is possible for each and every one to pick and choose sattva, so that they will be able to, achieve the goal. What is the goal? Dukkhatraya abhigata. How can I do that? I want to understand how the universe is created. I want to know about the three gunas, which are the constituents of the Moola Prakriti and the entire universe, and also I will have to understand the nature of the self. All these things require a sattvic mind. Okay? And yes, let's have a short break.